this land of ours. Good to drive in this land of ours.
Hello, Canada hockey fans in the United States.
How's it going, Nick?
I'm drunk.
Nah.
I'm not bullshitting you. Got stinking shitface on the bus. Louise left me, and that son of a bitch over there keeps playing me when he knows I'm shitface.
Jeez, I'm really sorry.
Anybody throws me against the boards, I'm gonna piss all over myself.
The puck is dropped, and we're underway with our Hockey Time Machine special on the 1977 film classic Slapshot. Welcome, everyone. I'm Glenn Dreyfus. Back in 77, Slapshot was not met with universal acclaim. The critic Rex Reed called it, quote, violent, bloody, and thoroughly revolting. But boy, has it aged well. In GQ magazine, Dan Jenkins said Slapshot was, quote, the best sports film of the past 50 years. Rolling Stone had this high praise: rowdy, raunchy, hilarious, absurd, deeply depressing, and profoundly human. And Maxim magazine said the Charlestown Chiefs live the life every real guy dreams of. They drink beer, get laid, play sports, gamble, watch TV, avoid relationships, and successfully put off adulthood. What is not to like? So we have an outstanding panel of actors and others to discuss the enduring legacy of everything Slapshot. First, some quick housekeeping. Our friend Jim McRae at Griffintown Media has generously offered a copy of the wonderful book, The Greatest Collection. Here's how you can win the book. Later in the program, we will run a taped interview with one of the Hyannisport presidents, Bruce Boudreau. Bruce gives an exact number in the interview. So in the chat, make sure you guess about the number of times people have asked Bruce about Slapshot. The one who's closest wins the book. And we'd love if you would also use the chat feature to let us know where you're watching from. And speaking of books, a big shout out to Jonathan Jackson, author of The Making of Slapshot. Jonathan was essential in making this program happen. And by the way, Jonathan tells us that although the book is out of print right now, soon it will be available again. And when it is, do yourself a favor, treat yourself by purchasing a copy of The Making of Slapshot. Okay, here we go. Get ready for some old-time hockey. But in case some of you are unfamiliar with the rules of the game, let Denny Lemieux explain for you.
What is high sticking?
High sticking happen when the guy take the stick, and he go like that. You don't do that.
You don't do that?
Oh, no, never, never.
Why not?
Against the rules. You're stupid when you do that. Just some English pig with no brain
Dennis,
at all,
What is slashing?
Slashing is like that,
Mm-hmm. And there's a penalty for that?
Yeah. And for a trip also,
Oh.
like that. And for hook like this. And for spear, like that.
Mm-hmm.
All bad.
Bad.
You do that, you go to the box, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame,
Mm-hmm.
And then you get free.
We don't feel much shame, but instead great honor to say hello to Yvonne Barrett, who played our favorite goalie. Yvonne, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Glenn.
How many times have you been asked to repeat that sequence at the beginning of the film?
I cannot tell you how many times, but I never thought I would have to repeat that scene that much.
Do you have it memorized?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I had to. Yes, absolutely. That was
We were speaking before the show started about when you first saw the movie in 77. Tell us the reaction you got when you were walking out of the theater.
yes, we were all waiting for people. They were looking at the show, and the premiere was at 7:30, and they start looking at it at 5:30. We were all in the hall. Nancy Dowd, Alan Nichols, a couple, Yvan Ponton, and I was curious to see, did they enjoy the movie? But the first guy who came out of the theater, an Irish guy about around 70 years old, walked straight to me and he said, "You're a disgrace for hockey." That was the first reaction.
Well,
That's crazy.
his opinion didn't hold up too well.
4 years, 4 years it did. You know, after the premiere in Montreal, Slapshot was for me like any other movies I had done. It took years. I had done a movie an historical movie in 2000, and my son made a web page with pictures from the movie I had done, and somebody from Los Angeles, Ken Blake, saw that picture on the web, and he came back to me and he said, "Were you the goalie in Slapshot?" I said, "Yes. Would you mind to sign some puck for me?" I said, "Why? What do you want me to write on the puck?" And he said, "Denis Lemieux, Yvon Barrette." And I said, "Okay." And he sent me 6 pucks with a bunch of coffee. He was working for a coffee company. I signed the puck, and sending back the puck, I put a call sheet from the movie. And from that call sheet, he was able to be in touch with most of the actors, everybody who worked on the movie, and meeting the two blonde girls, Louise and Janet Arthurs. He realized that Louise Arthurs had multiple sclerosis. So he's a very sensible man. And he came back to me and he said, "Yvonne, would you mind trying to raise money through Slapshot fans to help Louise Arthurs?" I said, "Sure, no." I gave him my original script, and everybody gave something like a jersey or something like that. And for the first time, seen 1976, we went back to Philadelphia one night, and the day after, back into Johnstown. And Louise was dropping the puck from her wheelchair. And we were a bunch of guys from Slapshot sitting around the arena signing photos. And we raised $20,000 in 2 nights. So that gave me the idea that we might do something very interesting with that movie.
One of the less known stories about Slapshot is how much good the actors and the movie itself have done for people in the decades since.
Oh, it never stopped. It did stop because of the pandemic, but every years we did the fundraising for cancer or anything else. And as I told you a few minutes ago, I worked with Kerry Goulet, a guy from Toronto who made his hockey career in Germany. And he brought us 4 times in Germany. and he was promoting two uh, two things that he start stop concussion to raise money for spinal injuries, and he start stop concussion to stop concussions, and he brought us to help bringing people in the arenas, and everybody in Germany's knew the lines from Slapshot. Instead of who owns the Chiefs, owns. It was Wim Gehört, the chief, Gehren, and that was their favorite line. And just the same in Australia, the same in United Kingdom. Everybody knew the lines. So
You
that's funny.
mentioned that scene, the one you owned the scene. So let's take a look at it.
Joe owned the Chiefs.
Owns.
Owns.
I don't know.
Thanks.
Okay. What?
You don't know.
How'd you ask him?
I say who owned the Chiefs.
What did he say?
Owns.
For Christ's sake.
I don't care who owned the Chiefs. I hate it here. Make me sick. My allergy. Puke every time. Blah, like that. Puke.
Well, you're a goalie. You're supposed to be like that.
Somebody owned the Chiefs. We go to Florida and I get the money.
What comes to mind when you see that?
That's a lot of beautiful memories. For a young actor who I was, to be working with Paul Newman, that brilliant man, and so open. That was just great memories. Absolutely.
Before filming started, speaking of slap shots, a shot to your knee sent you to the hospital, and you thought it was also going to knock you out of the movie.
Oh, absolutely. We were. It was the last Saturday. We were the shooting should have started Monday. We were in rink, not far from Johnstown. I was wearing the goalie equipment for the first time, but I was missing a part of equipment. So George Royal asked people not to slap shot me from inside the blue lines. And one of the actors did, and I made the save with the interior part of the knee, and I fell on the ice, and I started crying. So George Royal skated to me and he said, "Are you okay, Ivan?" I said, "I made the save." And they sent me to the Johnstown Hospital, and they called team hockey doctor because he knew about those kind of injuries, and they put me on crutches for 3 weeks. So I went back to the hotel when I was in my room, really sad. I thought that's over, Ivan. They will bring somebody else to do the job, and that's it. But I was there for half an hour, maybe, and they all came back from the rink and came to my room. George Royal with Screw magazine, Newman with a basket of fruits and a bottle of Fin Napoleon. Alan Nichols had created a song, and they were all there singing that song to tell me that nobody else was going to be the Neil Lemieux. I was so touched, deeply touched. The day after, I called my wife and telling her the story, I felt crying. That was unbelievable. And when you work with people who are so nice, you cannot be cheap. You do your best. And that's what I did. Yeah.
There's a scene where you're in goal and you spot your new girlfriend in the stands. What I want to know, Ivan, is who is that woman in real life?
She was Susan Newman. Paul Newman's daughter. She was working as his secretary on the set, and she was pretty tall, and she was working in a drugstore for the scene, and they put her on in an apple box to make her look even taller. So,
Oh, great. Now, there's one other scene I want to ask you about, and this is with a fan that isn't quite as friendly. The Hansons go into the stands, and you go in to try to help them, but this ended up being a painful scene for you. Tell us why.
oh yeah, there was that lady with a bottle, and she was gonna break the bottle on my head. But when we shoot the scene, the first two shots, I was unable not to close my eyes. So Giorgio Hill said, Ivan, you close your eyes. You have to keep your eyes open. You're not supposed to know that she was going to bring a bottle on your head. So I did it, and I fell on the ice and cut my head on the ice.
Now that's
But we made it. We made it.
Yvonne, thank you. Stay with us, please, because we're going to bring you back with our entire panel after we have talked to everybody individually. But for right now, thank you. We'll give you a break, do a line change. Next, I'd like to say hello to Dave Killer Carlson, also known as Jerry Hauser. So Jerry is with us, and thank you very much for joining us, Jerry.
Absolutely. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You grew up in LA, so of course you ended up being an actor. But what's less obvious is that's where you also became a hockey fan. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I was here when the Los Angeles Kings first came to town. And this was not, I mean, there was no hockey happening in LA, really. I think there was a minor league team, but really no hockey, and it wasn't an American sport at all. And a friend of mine worked for a company, worked for this company that got season tickets, and they never used them. So we always went to the King games, you know, very few people in the stands. And that's where we first got interested in hockey. And nobody knew how to skate, and you couldn't get equipment anywhere anyway. If you wanted a stick, you had to buy it from the Sears catalog. It certainly wasn't no sporting goods store in LA. And so we all, you know, we would sign up on, they had the broken stick list, and down they keep in the penalty box, and we'd all go to the games and sign up, and they give you a number. And as sticks broke during the game, which more of them broke than they were just wood sticks, whatever one broke, if that was your number, you'd go down there and you'd get the broken stick. And some would just crack a little bit, and they'd be great to get, you know. Of course, mine would always, you know, the shaft would shatter. So I end up with pieces of a stick I'm trying to tape back together at home. But that was where I first got interested in hockey. And a few years later, one of our friends went away to college and learned how to play at college, and came back into, because we were playing on cement. And he came back and said, there's a whole other side to this game on ice. You've got to try it. So we all went out and learned how to skate. And that's where my my great hockey career began.
Well, let's look at some of your work in Slapshot. And Jerry, I'm going to invite you to chime in after we watch each of the clips. Early in the film, here you are in the press box.
Dave, is it tough sitting up here watching your team lose like this?
Definitely, Jim.
Mm-hmm. You injured your knee in the Peterborough game.
No.
No, I thought you had.
No, I have a cold. You know, the runny nose, and the sore throat, all that. I went on that storm there last week to start my car. I didn't have my jacket on. I think it may have settled down there in my kidneys. You know?
All right, we got action here to the right of the president's go.
Who is that young guy?
Huh?
Who is that young guy?
Were you trying to establish that you were, at the beginning, a mild-mannered guy?
Yeah, I think that it was all such an amazing. I mean, I know I'm digressing a little bit here from that one scene, but it was all such an amazing experience being there, being with all the, you know, I know Steve's going to be on later on, and with all the real hockey players in a professional environment like that. It was I was just trying to keep my head above water, actually. I mean, suddenly I'm on a movie I'd been working already, and you know, I started a few years prior in the movies, but suddenly I'm working with George Roy Hill as a director, Academy Award-winning director. I'm working with, you know, Paul Newman, and I'm a hockey player amongst all these professional hockey players. I was just struggling to keep my head above water. I think my mild-mannered approach was merely a disguise of fear in the midst of it all.
Well, you may have started out scared, but then you decided on a new nickname.
Hey, Reg.
Yeah?
I think I'm gonna change my name.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Killer.
Hey, that's got a nice ring to it, kid.
Yeah.
It's really fun to watch the little clips like this. I mean, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, and it's fun to see that. It's such. I'll tell you something. It's such and I don't mean to sound corny. It's such a privilege to be a part of something that has the legs that this movie has. I mean, acting that was my career, and you know, I joke around saying, you know, nobody comes up to me these days and says, "Oh, I saw you in Barnaby Jones and it changed my life." You know, you don't hear things like that. So to be a part of something that's as memorable as this film is, and it's not my movie. I'm a part of, you know, George's movie and Paul's movie. And to be a part of that and have it remembered and loved the way it's still loved now it's really cool. I mean, you know, I gain more and more of an appreciation for having been a part of it.
Well, later on, if you want to tell us about Buddy Ebsen, I'm all in for that.
He was a great guy.
But in the meantime, you owe a thanks to the Edmonton Oilers because Dave Hansen was supposed to play Dave Killer Carlson. Do you want to pick up the story?
Well, there was, you know, Jeff, Steve, and Jack Carlson. They were all three brothers playing for the Johnstown Jets. And Jack was up with the Minnesota Fighting Saints in the WHL at the time, WHA at the time. And so when they cast the movie, they needed the third brother. So they took Dave, you know, Nancy Dowd wrote this based on the Johnstown Jets and all those experiences. And so they took Dave Hansen and made him the third brother, which opened up that role that I had auditioned for and that I ended up getting. So I don't know if I was exactly the same as Dave in real life, but I did my best.
Well, he made out okay too.
That's true, he did. That's true, he did.
Next clip, you engage in a stick fight with Dr. Hook while Reg and Ned have a philosophical discussion on the bench.
Score goals. Oh, kiss my ass. We win because I make them crazy. Come on.
Tell me about the choreography of a scene like that, because you made it look frighteningly real.
Well, it was fairly real. I mean, he didn't cut me at the end. Although, again, I know I'm digressing all over the place here, but in my other fight where it's, you know, take that sentence back, and I get in the fight with Ross, it was Barkley, right?
Barkley Donaldson.
Barkley Donaldson. So I get in the fight with Ross Smith. So we had choreographed that fight, and take that sentence back, and I come in, and I break my stick over his on him, and we start to fight, and he grabs me by the hair, and the camera's behind my head. So we rehearse this scene where the camera's behind my head. He's throwing the punches, coming up and hitting me in the shoulder as I'm doing it. And as he does, with the camera behind me, my head's going back, and it looks like he's hitting me, and we work this whole thing out. Okay, let's do it. Rolling camera, action, Well, take that sentence back. Boom, I break my stick. He grabs me by the hair. He starts hitting me in the face. And I've never been hit I'm not a big fighter. I've never been hit like that in my life. I am bleeding. He just nailed me. And, and George is there going, yo, go, 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 go. It's all the, energy of it. And you're just pumped in the middle of the scene. So you're just going and fighting and doing everything else. We get done. And I remember, I wish Ross was here, because he'd get done and Ross goes, I'm sorry, I forgot. And these guys are professional hockey players, and I'm assuming, because I've never been one, but in certain instances, it kicks in. You get into this fight, and you'd better be ready to go, and you better be ready to do it. If you're giving it a second thought, I suppose you're going to get your butt kicked. So it was all the rehearsing that goes into a scene. The one with Dr. Hook was, we had worked that out and everything else. And what's interesting, if I remember correctly, is that when we shot it the first time, we shot the scene, and the scene, I believe, was written in the end where he gets me and I go down to the ice, and that was the end of it. He gets me and he wins that fight. And they watched the dailies, and they came back and they felt that it needed the resolution that it had, which was me turning and doing that. So I think we went back and added that part of that scene.
Jerry, your digressions are welcome. You go anywhere you want with this. You're not limited to the clips, just like the fights in Slapshot. Now, tell me if you remember this. And this is a clean story, although it sounds like it won't be, so don't worry.
There are enough of those that aren't. Yeah, go ahead.
A Johnstown woman named Grace Head played one of the hockey wives.
Right.
This is her on the left knitting. Her husband was Jets captain Galen Head.
Right.
Grace also had a regular job at the hospital, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, which happened to overlap with her 2:30 a.m. call for makeup. So she says that you told her, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Do you remember how you took care of it?
Oh my gosh. I wish I could jump right on that story and tell you, but I don't. Do you know the answer?
I do.
Oh no. Okay. Honestly, a lot went on over the months that we shot that movie, and at that point, I have no recollection of that. She was the Galen's wife who was going to piss all over himself. So
what Grace said is that the morning she was going to miss her makeup call, power mysteriously went out on the set.
Oh.
And so she didn't miss her makeup call, and she got to be in her scenes.
I'll take credit for that. That's really cool. Now that it won't come back to haunt me, I'm glad to take credit for that story. That's a good one.
All right. One last clip, and this is absolutely brilliant. And it's the longest clip I edited because I just couldn't take anything out of it. And you're discussing inner peace or something. It's a little hard to figure out.
One of those little kids said, I'm Killer Carlson. He picked up his little stick and he just creamed that other little kid. How do you feel about that, Dave?
Well, Jim, the way I see it is the kid probably would have done it anyways, a bad upbringing in the home or whatever.
That's very interesting, Dave.
Yeah, can I be serious for just a minute?
By all means.
I'd just like to say that no matter how the game turns out tonight, I owe all that I am to our coach, Reg Dunlop. He's had the greatest influence on me. Aside, of course, from the Swami Baha, whose Positive Thinking records have been a tremendous help.
Positive Thinking records.
Yeah, that's right. You can get them at any religious record store. And, I know that thousands of people in Charleston have lost their jobs, with the mill closing and all. And I see them walking around the streets depressed all the time. And, well, I just want to say to all you unemployed folks out there that, well, you can get a whole new lease on life with these records. Nothing will bother you anymore. You can just go out there and clobber the next guy in your business life.
It's very inspirational, Dave.
Thanks.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah. We're gonna win tonight.
Jesus Christ, what a fucking nightmare.
I'm having so much fun watching this. It's been such a long time.
I love the way that the 70s psychobabble was parodied there. So basically your message was you're not a role model. It's bad parenting.
Yeah, that's right. In the home and all. Yeah. That scene, it's interesting with that scene because I remember I came down, we were going to shoot that scene, I think the next day or later on, and they wanted to do a makeup test on me. So I came down and we I got made up and they did everything and wardrobe and everything else. And I think they were at the radio station already shooting something else and they'd finished early. And so George said, let's shoot this now, which, I was ready. I was, obviously, but at the same time, I do recall that I was really nervous about it because I wasn't planning on doing it that day. I wasn't planning on shooting that scene that day when we did it. But it was Andrew Duncan also. What a wonderful guy he was. You look back now, I have a much greater appreciation for the different actors in the movie and what they did. You look, when you see it in little clips like this, I was watching Yvonne. You have to understand that whole stuff in the beginning scene where he's talking about, the different penalties and going to the penalty box and all that. On the written page, those are just lines, sentences on a page that are all together. And I'm watching him the way, he broke it up and the way, there was such character in that with him as an actor. It was just really impressive. And it's fun to have a little bit of distance from the movie and watch it again and see choices that the people made and watch Newman. He was just wonderful in it. And I don't know, it's really a treat. It seriously is such a treat to be a part of that movie. And during the, I don't want to take up too much time, but during the time that we made the movie with all the guys, all the hockey players who were absolutely real guys, that was the coolest part of all. They welcomed us in. We were, there was no room for any ego or any actor ego there. That's for sure. They wouldn't allow any of that. And it was all very, very, very real and very honest. And I think that's part of the appeal of the movie now that you see is that it's really genuine. The relationships were genuine. We were really kind of forming as a team. I've got a long story to tell, so I won't tell that one, but it was a wonderful experience.
Stand by, Jerry, because we're going to have you back after we talk to some of the other guests we have lined up. But before I let you go, you had a renowned career as a voiceover actor. Can you just give us a little Bam Bam Rubble or Keebler Elf or whoever you want to favor us with?
What's interesting in that, and thank you very much. And I did, after I stopped acting in probably the late 90s, mid 90s, I started into voiceover and enjoyed, definitely it's a certain degree of success doing voiceover. And my voice is somewhat charactery. And what more often than not, in most of the things I did, some people have a voice, a slight variation, it's a whole different thing. For me, especially in animation and everything else, unless I would go far away from me into, hey, how you doing there? Kind of voices. I'm kind of me. you know, and I couldn't get it. So when you talk about what did Bam Bam sound like at the Keebler Elf, pretty much one and the same. Bam Bam could have been a Keebler Elf. You know, I've been fairly much me, you know, as evidenced by Gordon Hunt, who a wonderful, wonderful director, and did most of Hanna-Barbera's during their heyday. He directed so many of their animated shows. And I was in doing a show, and they had hired me to be a space beaver, whatever that is. And I remember sitting there with Gordon and saying to him, so Gordon, you know, how do you know, because I wanted to see kind of what voice they wanted. And he said, Gordon, how do you see this? How'd you like me? And he looked at me and he went, we hired you. And I went, oh, I get it. So yeah, my voice won me a lot of work and probably lost me a lot of work too, but they're one and the same.
Okay, stand by.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jerry. No Slapshot discussion could be complete without a Hanson brother. So Steve Carlson has been kind enough to agree to spend some time with us. Steve, thank you for your patience and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Glenn. Thank you so much. And I know you wanted to pick the good-looking one.
Well, I wanted somebody who could keep up with me. I was going to use this quote later on, but you did say something. You have talked about your looks before. When you're as good looking as I am, with all the talent in the world, age doesn't matter.
Well, no, it does matter, because what I want to say is the chicks love the glasses. Because, you know, we have to be very careful not looking at the sun at all, because we'll start fires everywhere. But you know, yeah, it's good getting. It's not feeling good getting to this age where the gray hair is coming, but I feel great still.
All right. Well, one thing we have to get out of the way. Who is Chubby Dudley?
Chubby Dudley? No clue. I know. Who's Chubby Dudley?
He was a wrestling persona of one of your castmates. Okay, this is all getting cut out. This is going to get left on the editing room floor. No one will ever see this.
Okay, because I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay. Then let's start with this. All three Carlsons signed with the Johnstown Jets in 1974. And tell us why. You wanted to stay together, is that right?
Well, we signed with the Minnesota Fighting Saints of the World Hockey Association. And they said we have to go down to the minor leagues and get some experience. So all three of us went down to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. We had training camp in Niagara Falls. And we went, once training camp ended, we went to Johnstown. We started playing as a line. We had long hair, black glasses, just like, you know, a lot longer hair than I have now. It was down on our shoulders. But we wore the black safety glasses. And my two brothers, they were the enforcers. I was more of a hockey player, more of a skill player than they were. And which was great for me, because I dump it in their corner, let them go get it. I'm no fool. I'll sit in the slot and score goals. But that's how they played. That's how they made it in the hockey world, as being the enforcers. And what happened there is Nancy Dowd came down and wanted to write about a minor league hockey club. And she traveled with our team a little bit to watch how we played. We did go in the stands in Utica, New York. We did get arrested. We did jump a team in warm-ups in real life. We did win the championship in real life. So a lot of that movie, the stuff in the movie is true.
We'll continue our conversation as we watch you guys in action. Dave Hanson, who filled in as one of the Hanson brothers, said this: you guys were acting, but you weren't acting, because the director, George Roy Hill, told you to just be yourselves. And as you just said, that's pretty much what you were doing, right?
We really did. We're characters. We were fun-loving guys that just have fun. And, you know, we're a minor league hockey team. We're trying to make it to the national, or not the national hockey, but the WHA at that time. But we're all Americans. We're all from northern Minnesota, and the game was dominated by the Canadians hockey players. So we had to do what we had to do to make it to the major league team. So we just had fun playing the game. Our first 3 paychecks bounced. So I don't think too many players nowadays would keep on playing if their checks bounced. But we just love playing, and we had fun doing it. And what happened during the seasons, like I said, we won the championship, and they came to us and said, "You want to be in a hockey movie?" And it took us a while to agree to our contract. I think it was like maybe 5 seconds. You know, we didn't have to work that summer. Yeah, usually you go play hockey in the wintertime and go back in the summertime and work because you didn't make enough.
We're going to play a clip now of the Hansons getting fired up in the room, and then I'll have you comment on it.
Guys, we all know how to play hockey. Just play it smart. That's right. You're not daring. Stick 'em. Fuck 'em. Christ, pop on. Get our show. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Let's go now. We need this win, you know. We got a lot of losses. Yeah, we got a lot of losses. Let's start making it for a buck. Start winning. Go to the top. At the bottom. That's what we're here for, guys, to win. Play heads up out there. I mean, let's be smart. Man for man, we're better than any fucking club in the league. And just put our minds to it. We're number one. Come on, Braden, our line starts.
It's fucking embarrassing.
How much of what you did in the movie was improvised?
A lot, because, you know, we had trouble sometimes, you know, and give all the credit to Paul Newman, because what we did with him is he would come to us and he would show us what we had to do, how to do it on the acting side of it. And he would come to us and ask us about the hockey world. What do I do as a coach for doing this? What do I do as a player doing that? So we worked with each other all the time. But we were having trouble. You know, we're trying to memorize the lines and we weren't being ourselves. And George Roy Hill came up to us and said, "Listen, boys, you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what the scene is. Just make us laugh." So that just clicked, turned the switch on and said, "Okay, let's just have fun doing this." And we just started going off on each other because we played. When Jeff would say a line, I would go off that line, Dave would go off my line, and we would just keep on going. So it was pretty interesting where we didn't do a lot of takes because, you know, it's pretty tough to retake where you just ad-libbing a lot. But they gave us that liberty to do what we wanted to do on the set.
Like I read that all 3 of you crossing yourselves before you go to get on the ice, that was not written in the script, for instance.
That was not. They're having trouble when Paul Newman says, "Okay, boys, show us what you got." They had no idea what, you know, to get us off the bench in the locker room, how to get us to the rink. So, you know, we're just doing something and we're talking amongst each other and says, "Listen, when he finishes his speech, let's just do the sign across and just go, yeah, let's go." And we did that, and George Roy Hill says, "Perfect. We'll take that one."
And the toys that you were playing with, those were actually your race cars.
They were, but I just want to get one thing straight, Glenn. Newman said we were too stupid to play with ourselves. That's not true. All right. But yeah, what happened with that scene is that actually happened in Johnstown when we were playing for the Jets. On Sundays, all the places in Johnstown were closed. So what we would do is Dave and Guido Tenisi, who's the pretty boy with the Sparkle twins, lived on the 3rd floor. The 3 Carlson boys lived on the 2nd floor, and the landlord and landlady lived on the 1st floor. And on Sundays, what we would do is we'd take all the furniture out of Dave and Guido's apartment and put them in our apartment. And we set up racetracks throughout the whole apartment, like 4 or 5 racetrack sets. And we'd have the team come over with their cars. We'd bet we'd have our cake there. I mean, milk there, milk and cookies there. Sorry, not the cake. We had milk and cookies and just enjoying the Sunday afternoon brunches. And we would bet on our race cars. And we would just have a team meeting at David Guido's house. So that's how we got the toys and play with the race cars in the movie.
The scene that you just referenced is this one.
To see the 3 Chiefs make a scoring rush, the bright color.
Wrong. It's not that one.
Right.
It's this one.
Oh, you cheap son of a bitch. Are you crazy? Those guys are retards.
I got a good deal on those boys. The scout said they showed a lot of promise.
They brought their fucking toys with them.
I'd rather have them playing with their toys than playing with themselves.
They're too dumb to play with themselves.
But that's not true.
That's not true. Not true.
Now, you also brought the hockey mentality to the set, even when you weren't filming. It was a party. It was hijinks. You introduced a lot of the actors, the non-hockey players, to the hockey lifestyle, right?
We did. You know, like Jerry was talking about. You know, he was introduced into the hockey and in the NHL or our locker rooms, and all the players were professional hockey players besides the actors, and it was fun with them because, like Jerry said, he came into our world now. When we're in the locker room, that's our place to work, and that's where we do our fine points of doing things right. Where once we get onto the set with the cameras and the makeup and the hairdressers and the lighting, the sound, that's Jerry's world. And that's why I said that what happened there is Newman helped us, Jerry would help us, Michael Armke would help us, Alan Nichols, Yvonne Barrett would help us on what we're supposed to be doing. And the same note on that is Jerry would say, okay, how do I hold on to a player when I get into a fight? How do I grab on? How do I throw a punch? How is this going on? And Yvonne, as a goaltender, we had a couple of Ron Dawkin was in the movie, our goaltender from the Jets. He helped Yvonne, I'm sure, a little bit during the filming. So it's we helped each other out. The actors helped the hockey players, and the hockey players helped the actors out. And we created a great film.
So you're saying all these nice things about Paul Newman. How come you called him a thief?
Well, on that note, he wasn't well liked, and he was on the verge of becoming a superstar. And Universal hired the Hanson brothers to get him over the top. And so he wasn't well liked on the set. So we said to Paul, you know, why don't you come over to our house and apartment and let's have supper together. Let's talk things out. Well, he came over, and Jeff made a beautiful homemade salad from our mom's dressing. And I made the spaghetti with mom's homemade recipe for the spaghetti sauce. And Dave had the popcorn going on after. And what's Newman do? Stole all the recipes and made millions. But, you know, then he found out we were after him. And so he got into race car driving. Now we couldn't catch him. But he said, okay, let's let him slide. He's given all his money to the charity of his hole in the wall gang for the kids. We said, okay, we'll let it slide, let him go. And but he did steal our recipes.
But you proved that the Hansons and the Carlsons, all nice guys. And this leads into the last clip that I want to play, which is before the championship game when you were playing.
No more clips, please. YouTube is kicking us off, so we can't use any more clips. So my apologies for interrupting.
Okay, so you were going to play nice. So, asking if Ogie wanted a soda after the game.
Right. And this is where we're going to play. We're going to win the championship legit now. Newman wants to win the championship legitimately. We don't want no fighting. We don't want to go in the stands. We want to do it the right way. So we cowered down and said, okay, fine, we'll do it your way. And we got our butts kicked, and we accepted it very well because Reg is our coach. Yeah, he's our leader. So it's we said, okay, fine, whatever you want to do, Reg, we'll do it.
Universal wanted to make the Hansons movie stars. I understand they even had an idea where you be in a film and kidnap Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, that was one of the stories that the script was being written, where we're sitting in our hotel room and we're watching a commercial, and Farrah Fawcett was doing a commercial, and we connived the way of kidnapping her. And what happened with that one is they wanted to sign us to a 7-year contract and make a film every year, anytime they wanted. And we were professional hockey players just starting out in our career. And that's not what we wanted to do. Actually, during Slapshot, halfway through the filming, we quit. We left. We said, we're done. You know, we didn't want to film no more. And that's not, and a couple of us went to Washington, D.C. A couple of us just stayed in town. And Universal Studios said, if you're not on the set tomorrow, you'll be seeing our lawyers and we will be suing you. So we got everyone back on set. So it was a tough situation to just sit around for 12, 13 hours and do nothing. And then all of a sudden your scene comes up and you're done it after an hour. So it was tough sitting there all for 3 months with your equipment on and sitting doing nothing. That's what we could have been home working. But I'm glad we did.
It's a reasonable decision to consider your hockey career something you wanted to continue, because a lot of people may not know the Karlssons were pretty fair hockey players. You, Steve, had 52 games with the LA Kings and another 173 in the WHA. Brother Jack racked up 236 NHL games and 272 more in the WHA. So not too shabby. People don't really realize that you guys had legitimate hockey skills.
We did. I played 14 years pro. Jack played 11, or actually Jeff played 11 and Dave played 10. And my brother Jack had a great career with the Minnesota Fighting Saints, New England Whalers, Edmonton, Minnesota North Stars in the NHL, and St. Louis Blues. So yeah, we did. And plus I coached 5 years pro after I got done playing. So it's, we are all hockey players. That's one of the main things that when we go up to Canada, you know, the Canadians love the movie Slapshot, and they're kind of surprised that we're all Americans. We're all from Minnesota. So it's, we did have a great career in the hockey world, and we also had the benefit of making one of the greatest hockey films of all time. And not only hockey films, maybe all sports.
I don't know how many times this has happened in pro hockey. The Fighting Saints, in the same trade in 1977, sent you and your brother to the Oilers. And oh, by the way, Dave Keon was sent with you.
And Johnny Pie McKenzie. Yeah. Yeah, we were sent. That was, I think, the third time the Minnesota Fighting Saints folded. And we refused to go to Edmonton at that time. And what happened on that one is New England Whalers traded for us to go to New England Whalers, and we all went to New England to finish out the season there. So it was a great pleasure for me, because at that time it was Davey Keon, one of my idols, and the next year it was Gordie Howe, Mark Howe, and Marty Howe that joined us with the New England Whalers.
Speaking of rarities, what claim can you make that only one other hockey player will ever be able to make?
I heard there was one more. I heard there was three now. I'm one of them that I played on the same team with Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky was my roommate when we were with Edmonton, when he went from Indianapolis to Edmonton. The same thing with Newman. You know, no one really liked Gretzky, and they said, okay, let's room him with Steve Karlsson. Maybe he'll teach him how to, because he couldn't skate that well. He couldn't shoot the puck very well. And I said, let's room him with Steve Karlsson. Maybe he can improve his game, and he did, and he gives me no credit for it.
Tell me about the night in Birmingham, Alabama, where you issued a challenge to Wayne.
Oh boy, you better tell me this story, because I know the story. All right, we first get him from Indianapolis, and we're sitting on a Birmingham Bull. We're playing the Bulls, and actually Dave was playing for the Birmingham Bulls at that time. And I said, hey, Gretz, everyone tells me how great you are. Why don't you show me? He goes, what do you want me to do? I says, what I want you to do is go around all three forwards, go around one defenseman, come back, and go around the other defenseman and score a goal. He goes, okay. You got to remember that. This boy is, I think he was 17 or 18 at the time. So he goes on the ice, and he does exactly what I asked him to do. He comes back to the bench and says, okay, you're good.
See, if you hadn't pushed him, he might have just had a so-so career.
He would have been only average.
So I want to thank Laura Evans for coming on and setting us straight about clips. There is a clip now, Steve, I'm going to play. It doesn't have any slap shot in it, so I think we'll be okay, because I want to talk about, in the decades since the movie, the Karlsson/Hanson brothers have remained red hot, appearing all over the world, playing an old-timer, NHL alumni, and charity games. So, Steve, tell us what people can expect from a Hanson's brothers appearance.
Well, what we used to do when we appeared, like Jerry said, the COVID is really knocked it. We are not traveling no more because of the COVID. What we would do is we like entertaining people, and we like especially the young fans. If one young player watches Slapshot, we always say it's bad parenting. But what we do is we like entertaining people. We like when people leave the arena with a smile on their face, and that's what we like doing a lot. And we miss that a lot. But like I said, hopefully at one point we can get back doing it again. But at this point, it's pretty much at a standstill. And we just love being around arenas. We love being around people. We love raising money for charities. We've helped raise around 5 years ago, we helped raise over $27 million. So it was fun doing it. It's going to be fun again.
Tell us about the reactions you get. Are there special lines that you're asked to recite, like, I'm trying to listen to the effing song?
Well, there are the lines, and it's kind of fortunate. I got most of them. You know, the machine took my quarter. I'm listening to the song. Is the answer Jesus? And all these lines in the movie are just classics. And when I watch the film, when I watch Slapshot again, I know the line's coming. I know the scene's coming. I still giggle. It was so fun watching it. It's so fun doing it. And the response from Siskel and Ebert when they were on David Letterman, they asked them if they ever made a mistake on a movie. They gave 2 thumbs down, and he said, "Yeah, we did Slapshot. Now we give them 2 thumbs up."
And you broke that Coke machine, by the way, or one of the guys did.
No, it was me. It was me. We were at the train station in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. We were supposed to just bang it a little bit, you know. And at that time, they didn't have cans in the machine. It was all bottles. So we were supposed to just bang the machine a little bit, move it around a little bit. Well, we got a little bit aggressive, and all the sodas in the machine burst, exploded all over the place. They had to buy the train station new soda machine. It took my quarter.
I would be mad too.
I didn't realize it was 50 cents at the time.
Well, Steve, we're going to bring you back, but thank you so much for sharing what you did. We're as excited to have a Hanson on as everybody else is who sees you. So stay close, and we will come back to you, but thank you.
All right, Glenn, thank you.
All right. Now we're going to bring in Frank Hamill, who is Mr. Johnson. He didn't have a first name, but he was Johnson of the Broome County Blades. And Dave actually played for the Broome Dusters. That's the real team in the 70s. So, Frank, let me start off with this. What was the actual NAHL like back in the 70s?
Well, we sure didn't like the Carlsons coming into to Binghamton. They were pretty rough guys. But we had a guy, Teddy McCaskill, who was also in the movie. He toned them down a little bit, and I think they're surprised that an older fella could hold them up like that. But I think this movie is about 99% accurate. From what I know, all that stuff has happened sooner or later in the movie.
You were there the night of the Binghamton versus Utica brawl that in Slapshot style spilled into the stands. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, Gary Jaquith wasn't playing that night. He was injured, and so he warmed up, and then he got showered and dressed in the civvies, and the game was going on. And for some reason, Gary decided to sit over on the by the other penalty box because the fans were harassing one of our guys that got a penalty. And we looked up, next thing you know, and fists were flying and purses were flying. And we jumped over to help Gary, not that he needed any help.
So was that something that was unusual, or was just another night at the rink?
Well, it was unusual, but it just was part of the flow of the hockey league. There was a lot of fighting and brawls back then, and Steve and Jack and Jeff, they were a big part of it when Johnstown came to town. But it seemed every game, every team, there was a lot of fighting. We had a lot of brawls with Syracuse, and it was a pretty rough league. That all fit in the movie pretty well. There's not much inflated or exaggerated on that.
When you make your Slapshot appearance, you're number 12 of the Blades. First, Steve runs you into the boards, and then Jeff Hanson breaks his stick over your back. Frank, that isn't right.
That was a balsa wood A balsa wood stick, thank goodness. We did that scene about 3 times, and I said, this is going to hurt, but it was a balsa wood stick, and it's all made up to look like a regular stick, but they didn't tell me that.
Frank, stepping on toes is usually discouraged, but I understand it was a technique of yours during the production.
Well, we didn't know much about what was going on, but it seemed that they were doing a lot of different scenes, and every time Director Hill needed a winger, I'd be right there, and he'd turn around and bump into me, and then next scene he needed a fenceman, and I'd be right there. I was trying to get in the movie, get out of hockey and get into acting, but I got out of acting. My career was over after that movie.
Well, you're not giving yourself enough credit, because you actually were involved in the choreography, or at least the placement of the cameras, when the Hansons triple team you in the corner. Tell me about that.
Well, we did this scene in the corner, and we did it once, and Steve and Jeff and Dave, pretty big guys. And we did the scene. They said, cut, let's try it again. Let's try it again. We did the scene about 6 times, and I told them, take it easy. They said, we have to make it look real. And I think Director Hill was probably encouraging them on. But the ironic thing, the odd ironic thing about all this was shot, I think, in April of '76. Well, we just played against these guys a month before during the season, and they're trying to kill us and we're trying to kill them, and here we're all friends on the movie set, but I guess they forgot about that part. So we must have done that scene in the corner about 10 times. I know scene 8, 9, and 10, they really laughed and smiled after the director said cut, because they got a free shot. I recommended putting a camera to Director Hill. I haven't directed many pictures to that point, but I just saw the camera on the other side. It would give a different perspective of it, and my glove would come down off the boards, and ended up in the movie.
Yeah, that scene of the glove, you don't even see your face, but just the glove trying to hang on to the boards, and eventually it just drifts down the glass out of sight, really, dare I say, captured the spirit of the thing.
Well, after doing that scene for 10 times and having those 3 brutes beat me up for free, it was real. I was tired. That glove would cave down. I just wish they'd say cut and wouldn't have to do it anymore, and they did.
Well, expand on that for me, Frank, because I've read quite a bit that the black and blue marks that were left, not just on you, but a lot of the hockey players and the hockey playing actors, they weren't Hollywood makeup. They were real.
Yeah, I think Jerry and also Steve mentioned earlier that, you know, everybody's encouraged to try to make this look as real as possible, so they just keep doing what they're doing. And I think that's the only way to do it. If anybody had pulled back or not gone all out on the scenes and the hitting and the fighting, it wouldn't have looked as good as it came out.
Did you ever want to say, hey, Mr. Director, you go in the corner one time, let the Hansons triple team you, and then tell me how real you want it?
Well, I was thinking about telling him that, but I learned early on in the shooting of this movie, and there's a lot of standing around, as Steve mentioned, but the director is the boss coach on the ice with these movies. And I remember Paul Newman was kind of skating away between scenes and kind of memorizing his line. And I remember Director Hill saying, Newman, he didn't say Paul or Mr. He says, Newman, can we have you over here to work on this next scene, please? So they're very powerful, those directors.
I want to ask you about a photo, and it shows you in front of a door that looks like a big star with your name on it. was that your giant dressing room behind that door?
Well, it was our dressing room. We're there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's just how these hockey guys are. They like to have fun and other guys' expense. So they thought that I was getting in too many scenes, I guess.
Well, it's very impressive nonetheless. We should mention, Frank, that you are a Memorial Cup champion and a Montreal Canadiens draft pick. So tell us about that, and also about your lineage, your dad, Red Hamill.
Well, it is kind of funny that my dad played 13 years in the National Hockey League for the Boston Bruins, was on a Stanley Cup team in 38, 39, played 10 years in Chicago. Just a great teacher. I played on 2 junior A hockey championship teams, Garson Falconbridge Native Sons and the Toronto Marlies. We won the national championship. Played against the Russians, the Swedes. Had a great time down here. But it seems that 9 seconds in Slapshot kind of overreaches all of that hard work and sweat.
And what has been your participation in the post-Slapshot decades?
Well, I agree. We watched the movie when it first previewed or premiered in Utica. A bunch of the hockey guys and our wives, we watched it, and we didn't know what to think of it. And it didn't really play that well for a long, long time. But it's really gathered steam over the years and got to be a great addition to the hockey culture and the hockey world. So I'm certainly glad that we have Slapshot on film, and I'm really glad that I had a small part in it, because I wouldn't be here now talking with you.
Well, Frank, stay close. We're going to show some more of the photos that you took that you've shared with us. So I'll say thank you for right now, and we'll bring you back on in a few minutes, okay?
Thank you, Glenn.
But right now, we want to play an interview taped earlier, and it's with a former Maple Leaf and a former NHL Coach of the Year, who also happens to be a Slapshot alum. It's Bruce Boudreau. Bruce, I want to congratulate you before we start talking about the film. Your son, Ben, just added another ECHL coaching championship to the Boudreau family trophy case. So congratulations.
Yeah, I'm very proud of all my kids, but for what Ben's done and where he started, a huge congratulations to him. I'm so proud of him, and he's pretty sharp, and I really hope somebody gives him an opportunity to climb up the ladder, because I think he'll make a great coach at higher levels. And he's only 36 years old, but to win the cup, the same cup that I won in 1999, is pretty special.
How can he be 36 when you're only 42?
That would be a good point. Yeah, never mind. But I appreciate that. I wish I was only 42, but as we all know, it's a little older than that.
Now, I'd like to know the number of times that you've been asked about your part in Slapshot, and please be exact with the number.
186, and that's I think low, but it's been in the hundreds for sure. I mean, it's amazing how many people, when they know they're talking to you or they're going to talk to you, that they may not have anything in common with you or hockey, but they've seen the movie, and when they've seen the movie, they have something to talk. I can talk about Slapshot with him, because I don't know what else to ask him, but Slapshot will lead into other things. And for playing such a small part in the movie, it certainly has garnished a lot of attention for me in the last 46 years.
You were signed by the Fighting Saints of the WHA, and they sent you down, right, to Johnstown, and that was the genesis of all this?
Well, not really. I was down there at the beginning of the year, and then I got called up once I finally got in shape, and was playing in Minnesota. The story is sort of interesting, actually. I mean, I was in Minnesota when the team folded, and I didn't know what to do at that time. They had a dispersal draft, and I was picked first overall by Indianapolis. And my agent at that point, Alan Eagleson, said, he said, he tried to get, like, I was supposed to get a signing bonus at the beginning of the year, and Minnesota didn't have enough money to pay. They said, just delay it. And he wanted Indianapolis to pay for the signing bonus. They said, no, we're just going to pay for his contract. And so he said, forget it. And then he told me, he said, Bruce, he said, we're going to sign with the Leafs. So why don't you just go back down to Johnstown? They're making, they're making that movie there, and be part of the movie. And then at the end of the summer, we will, or at the end of the hockey season, we will sign you with the Leafs, and we'll start fresh there. So following my agent's, advice, that's what I did. It was probably, I mean, I'm happy I went and did the movie, but for my hockey purpose, it was probably the worst advice I could get. But that's how I went back down to Johnstown and played while they were making the movie there. So that's how I got there.
Now, in the movie, we see that you're playing for the Presidents, and your number is 7. We never see the back of your sweater. So did they give you a name?
No, I was just, I was just a guy out there that was quite a ham at that point in time. And I just followed the directions that Mr. Hill would give when he was doing the directing. And I tried to get in as many shots as I could. And often they had to say, cut, Bruce, get out of the clip, get out of the clip. I was always trying to sneak in and get into the picture a little bit more.
You say you were a ham, but you were a smart ham, because anybody could have done that, and you were smart enough to keep circling the net.
Well, yeah, and that's what he said. He said, we're just going to focus on the net right now, and on how many times Charleston gets shot on and everything else. And so, but they had the game going in the zone. And so instead of going out and going to the blue line and coming back and actually playing, all I did was stay in front of the net and circle the net, because I knew that's where all the action was going to be. And in the end, I think I scored the goal that went in, because I was the only one in front of the net. So, I mean, but they didn't show the puck coming off my stick, but I'm taking credit for it anyway.
I asked you how many times you've been asked about Slapshot. How many of those questions have come from players?
Oh, not really a lot of players. I mean, mostly fans or reporters or people that are doing an interview with me but don't really know what to talk about after a while. And so that's where that comes from.
Somebody else who asked you a question was Paul Newman.
Yeah, that was an interesting. He didn't sort of ask me. Well, he did ask me a question. He asked me to help him with the slap shot, so I'm sitting there on the ice helping him with the slap shot. After about 5 minutes, he's like, I'm trying to get technical and everything else. He just wanted to shoot the puck, and he says, "Okay, that's enough, kid. That's enough, kid." And he went away. But that was when he asked me. The other statement he made with me, though, was I was invited by him and George Roy Hill to watch the dailies one night, and the dailies are what they film during the day, and when then they show that back at night. So there was actually George Roy Hill, Paul Newman, Dave Hansen, and myself watching it. And excuse me, Paul Newman turns around and he says, I just made the movie Judge Roy Bean, and I just did that for the money. And he says, but this movie, he says, I did it for fun, and it's going to be great. And I'll never forget that he said that. I mean, when Paul Newman says something to you, you sort of remember it. But and he was so right on with it. I mean, this has been a movie that's transferred through time.
And 90% of what was in the movie, it's been said, are things that actually happened at that level of the minors. Is that something you feel the movie was also true to form?
I mean, it was exaggerated a bit, but the story was pretty true to form. I mean, the Hanson brothers had the cars. I mean, I don't remember them taking it on the road, but I do remember them. We all went to their apartment almost on a daily basis to play in the afternoon with them. I remember that Johnstown was a team that wasn't very good until the Carlsons or the Hanson brothers in the movie came to town and toughened everybody up. And then they decided to go really tough, and they had a whole bunch of tough guys, and they just beat everybody up in the league. And that's how that happened. I do remember them going into the stands it wasn't in Syracuse, I don't think, but those stories are all really close to the truth. And I think if you talk to the right people, they'll tell you Nancy Dowd was the screenwriter, and her brother Ned Dowd played for Johnstown at the time. He's the guy that played the part of Ogie Oglethorpe. But I mean, and she was doing a thesis for her screenwriting, and she stayed with the Johnstown Jets and traveled with them for 2 weeks, and then she came up with this screenplay. So a lot of it is really based on so many truths in the movie, and the hockey was somewhat like that. I mean, the story is obviously false about Michael Onkeen stripping, but I mean the everything you can see. If you know the story, you can see why it was happening and everything, and just pretty cool all the way around.
And another cool thing was, as a result of the movie, you got a new bed.
Yeah, because they came in one day and they just George Roy Hill, who's the director, says, "Hey, listen, we've got to do a scene today, and we need an apartment. Who's got the worst apartment and messiest apartment on the team?" And everybody in unison stood up and pointed to me. And I guess I deserved it. I was 21, and it was my first time away from home, and I didn't have my mom to clean the room, so I didn't clean it very well, and that's the way it went. So then they chose my room in my house, and they changed it all up a lot to make it look a lot nicer, but that's the room that we used.
And you got a new bed.
And I got a new bed out of it. Yeah. Mm.
Do you remember the first time you watched the finished film? You talked about the dailies, but do you remember when you saw your 15 seconds of celluloid fame?
Yeah, I mean, I went and saw not the premiere, I don't think. I can't remember whether it was the premiere or what, but it probably on the first weekend it was showing in Toronto. And I went there with my girlfriend at the time, and it was just packed. And the thing I remember most of all out of the whole movie was how many people laughed their butt off. I mean, it was a hilarious movie. And these are especially when you're watching it in Toronto, and they're pretty knowledgeable hockey fans there. And they were laughing so hard. I mean, if you might have saw it in Texas at that time, they may not have understood it as much as we did up north, but that was when I saw it. I don't remember the date, but I do remember it was when it opened in Toronto.
Well, Bruce, you have given a lot of people a lot of joy over many years, but included in that is your goal for the presidents of Hyannisport in 1977 Slapshot. So thank you so much for taking the time to share some of your memories with us.
I appreciate it, and do me a favor and say hi to the boys that you're doing from the movie, the actual actors. I remember, and he probably doesn't even remember me now, but 40 some years ago during this time, Barry Hauser and I hung out a little bit, and we became friends. And I thought he was the coolest dude going. So say hi to him for me, and thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for sharing some of that old-time hockey.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, our thanks to Bruce Boudreau. And Laura, if you would be so kind as to bring back all 4 members of our live panel, and we will get some of their reactions and let them do some crosstalk. And now the gang's all here. So let's start with Jerry. Now, I want to say one thing. In the words of Slapshot announcer Jim Carr, please keep your comments within the bounds of good taste. But Jerry, how about that shout out?
It was very nice. I totally remember. Well, first of all, everybody, and I don't know why, but everybody called him Gabby. You remember that, Steve, don't you?
Yeah, he never shut up.
That's why. And it was Gabby, and I mean, we hung out. We were friends. And I actually, there was a game, I think it might have been, I don't remember where the game was, but he was coaching. You know, he's a well-known NHL coach. And he was coaching somewhere.
Probably Anaheim.
Yeah, right. It was Anaheim. And I think I went down there, and I went back, and he was leaving town, or they were going on the road or whatever, but I went and saw him and said hi to him briefly there. But yeah, he's a great guy. He was a great guy then, and obviously you can tell by his interview he still is a wonderful guy.
Steve, do you remember Jerry asking you during the production, how do you fight?
Well, it wasn't me, because I wasn't a fighter. I invented turtling. You know, it was my 2 brothers that were fighters. When they back in those days, when a fight broke out, all 5 players dropped their gloves and grabbed on. I'm hoping, like, come on, please don't, not this game, because I just get pummeled all the time. Like I said, I invented turtling, and my brother Jeff and my brother Jack, they could throw them, but I didn't give it any advice to Jerry. I just said, hang on and throw as many as you can.
No, you and the rest of the guys were always doing things to me.
Well, we did. When Jerry comes in as a tough guy, we want to see how tough it really was.
Yeah. I mean, we're there, in all those fight scenes, like you said, where they square off and, everybody drops their gloves and they square off. And, I had a couple of scenes where I was featured in fighting and everything else. Otherwise, when I'm on the ice and either Newman gets in a fight or something happens there, you drop your gloves, you square off. I'm squaring off. We're using mostly, professional hockey players. And, number one, they're bigger. And number two, I don't know, whoever's had the opportunity to really play with a professional player of any sport, it is so much, it's such a higher level than anything you've done. I mean, we would drop our gloves, square off, and I'm like a rag doll. They're just going, I'm there trying to go, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be tough. And I mean, the guys were great, though. They were all great, but it was definitely an educational time.
Frank, did you participate in some of that education of the actors?
No, really not. We just let the real rough stuff go to Steve and to Jeff, and they're big, tough guys. They had the right guys in that movie, believe me.
Yvonne, you did something after the film that none of these other guys can say they did. You dubbed your own voice for the French language version of the film. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. I was so close to the original version. At first, when I read the version they made in Quebec, I was not sure of the effect it might have, because in the original movie I speak a very bad English. Now I was losing a lot of funny things in my lines, I thought. But finally, the reception that version had in Quebec made me proud because it was the first American movie translated in Quebec. And hockey is is very important in Quebec. So it had a wonderful effect.
And you're talking about Quebec French versus the country of France French.
Oh yeah, that in France it was called La Castagne, which is a name who mind fighting. I was doubled by somebody from Marseille. They were using words like gouret instead of hockey stick, and palais instead of a puck. So when Nancy Dowd watched that version, she was in France. She said, if I bring that version in Quebec, they will kill me. And she was right.
One more question about that. I've read, and I don't know how this is possible, but that the French language version of the film, the language is even more risque than it is in English?
The reason is it has been translated by a guy who was born in France. And for him, those bad words were not religious concern. You know, he was used to French like putain, those things, but the French bad words, they were looking like nothing for him. So he put a lot of them. That's why.
Steve, at the time, Slapshot set a record with 176 F-bombs. Did you ever say to yourself, I wonder, they're never going to let this on the way with everything we've said?
Well, what I heard is they had to actually clean it up a little bit because it was more than an R-rated movie, and they kind of cleaned it up a little bit more. But hey, listen, it had everything a man wants: violence, foul language, and nudity. Come on, what else you want? That's Slapshot.
Yeah, you gotta blow something up. You missed out on that one.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Well, I hit the organist in the head.
And that's true. You know, I remember being over at Universal with George and a couple of other people in a dubbing room because they were dubbing the movie for television. And I remember being in there and we're all sitting around trying to think of different words that would sound similar to something sounding like an F-bomb on there. You know, you got to freak with them. You got to fake with them. You got to, whatever it would be. Now, when you're saying that word, it would look like it's coming out of. It was very interesting trying to dub that for TV.
Steve, tell me about the 40th anniversary celebration that you held. The boys are back in town because some of these guys also participated. And tell me about that event and what that was like and maybe how gratifying it had to be for you.
Yeah, it was great, by the way, Steve. Thank you very much. He did an amazing job with that. It was really very special.
Well, Jerry, thank you for the compliment, but I did nothing. It was my wife, Vicky, that did it all. Seriously, we were in California for this. We were in California. We lived in Sacramento at the time, and Vicky did it all from Sacramento. We got the Aces Lounge where Newman always talked about, let's go to the Aces. We got the arena. We got the players in. We were sold out in 15 minutes for 2 hockey teams to come in and play the game. So it was a fabulous event. Aces did a wonderful job at their banquet room where they made the film clips of the red carpet and all that stuff. It was a fantastic event. And now we're working on the 45th anniversary. We're looking at a multi-city tour.
Frank, Yvonne, were you part of that 40th anniversary?
Yes, yes, I was there. I was back in Johnstown, absolutely. That was nice. That was fun to be together. It's always fun to get together. We're like brothers now.
It's true.
What's happening with it? Yeah.
It's true. There really is. What Yvonne said is right, in that there really is this connection because of that movie. I mean, it's something that's I think it's such a formative time in our lives.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's the only movie where we can feel that. We became like brothers, doing so much fundraisings together, it's always a party to be together. It's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to admit something that I know you know this, Yvonne, but I have to admit something, that I'm the one that took the shot that hit Yvonne in the knee.
Well, first, sorry, on that note, I seen your shot. It wouldn't have hurt him.
Well, that's why it didn't hurt him. That's why it didn't knock him out of the whole thing.
No problem, Jerry. I said I won't say that today.
Oh man, I felt so terrible, and I thought
you did yourself.
you thought you'd be fired. I thought they were going to fire me. I mean, George was pissed off, and they were really upset. And I mean, certainly it wasn't intentional, and I didn't know. And I feel bad for Yvonne because we do different celebrity events.
But we both thought that we were going to be fired.
I know, but we've done different celebrity events and we played in games in different cities where we've done that for Slapshot, and Yvonne has gone into goal, and inevitably he gets nailed. He just got nailed. He ripped this Slapshot at him, and he got nailed right in the wrist.
No, yes, I was doubled by Ron Dawkins at the because Universal were afraid that I might be injured one more time.
Yeah, for good reason.
Dawkins was left-handed, and I'm right-handed. So it was impossible for me to come back and do my own thing. That's
Jerry,
anyway.
have you admitted this before, or is this?
Yes, I did. I did a lot.
No, but has Jerry Jerry admitted publicly?
Ron
I believe this is the first.
made Denis Lemieux looks great. Absolutely.
I think this is the first time
But that way, I am the only goalie who made it to the Hockey Hall of Fame without having one goal against him.
There you go.
That's it.
Well, I'm glad we could turn this into a cathartic group therapy session for you, Jerry.
That's right. I feel free. I'm really.
It has to be.
Frank, are you amazed that not only the Chiefs merchandise is sold, but even the Broome County Blades? You can buy a Broome County Blades sweater. It's just amazing, isn't it?
A couple of years ago, they celebrated Slapshot for 2 days, and the home team had to wear the Broome County Blades jersey, and I lucked out and I got one, and had a great time with Jerry. We didn't spend much time together doing the movie in that 6 days because we had different parts sometimes, but we spent a great time together a couple of years ago celebrating Slapshot, and they got a little bit of Broome County hospitality. And it's big. Slapshot is big, and it's going to continue to get bigger.
Steve, I want to go back to the 40th anniversary. I understand part of that celebration was some of the fans got to sit and watch a showing of the film with you guys. And I was wondering what it was like to actually watch the film with fans of the film.
Well, Glenn, I'll give you kind of the whole day scenario. What we did is we had a bus tour. We had 3 Greyhound buses. We gave, and certain characters were on each bus, and we gave a tour of Johnstown where we filmed all of the scenes around Johnstown area. Then we did our hockey game in the afternoon, and that night then we had a banquet after the hockey game. And that night we had the buses. We took all the fans, and the people that got the privilege of going into the theater. We all watch with the characters. We all watch Slapshot together. And you know what? Like I said before, every time I see the film, I laugh. And I look at the people. They know the scene's coming. They know it's going to happen. I look at the characters, Yvonne and Jerry and all the other actors. You know, it was just a pleasure watching these people laughing again at watching Slapshot. And like they said, it's not going to die, and it's getting even bigger every year.
Yeah, that was just to say, watching the movie with an audience was really special, because other than when it was released, that when you see it on TV, you see it at home, and you're enjoying it. But watching with a whole audience of people reacting to the movie as it was originally shown was really cool.
2 questions to close out this wonderful show. And one is, and I'm sure you've all thought about this, Slapshot has this enduring quality. As you've mentioned, it's more than 40 years. You're going to have a 45th anniversary. Have you ever thought about why it is that the movie has made this kind of connection, especially because it didn't blow the world away when it came out in 77? Yvonne, let's start with you.
That's a sort of miracle. For me, it was just like another movie till 2001. So it took a long time before people bring the movie to their game. They're watching the movie in the bus going to play their games. As a lot of fans told me, when we're tired, we're coming back from work, we put the DVD in the box and we open a beer and sit and laugh. That's the only sport movie where you start laughing at the opening. Most of the time it's asked on a star. There is no star. We're a bunch of nobody winning a cup because we stick together. That's the main thing for me.
Who else wants to jump in on that deep philosophical question?
I'll jump in. I think I said it at the beginning when we were talking that I think that it's the and I hate to use the word because it's so cliche-ish, but the organic connection between everybody in that movie. We were really a team there, as evidenced by just the 4 of us right here, right now, and the connection that's there, 40 plus years later. It was very real. The relationships were real. The feeling was real. The script was authentic. And I think the relationships and the interactions between the characters, especially the hockey players, and just the underlying feeling you got was, it feels good to be around that. It feels good to be in the midst of that. And I think that there's that very special element that exists in that movie. Aside from it being funny and exciting to watch and entertaining, and you get to look at Paul Newman, I think that's a strong element that attracts people to it even now.
Frank?
Jerry, I don't know if you know this, but I'm not really an actor. I was just an extra hockey player in the show. There was a lot of brawling going on in the 70s with Philadelphia, and it just worked its way down even to minor leagues where fighting and brawling was, part of hockey. And I think that this movie turned all that kind of blood and guts and gore and turned it on its head and made it funny. And Steve is one of the funniest guys I know, and it just turned humor. And I think people like to see that perspective of it, and not really the blood going down the guy's head from getting high sticks. So I think the people loosened up and relaxed and really enjoyed how it could be changed in a humorous way.
Also, what happened, Glenn? What happened? The NHL didn't really welcome us in after Slapshot was made. They thought we made a mockery of the game.
Right.
But once the DVDs came out and the hockey boom started, where the United States is getting more hockey teams and more familiar with the game of hockey, because it went south, the Birmingham, the Floridas, the Texas, they all got familiar with the hockey world. And all of a sudden now, what they're gonna watch? Youngblood? Nah, we're gonna watch Slapshot, right? And like Yvonne said, you know, every time a kid went to a tournament, they on a bus or in their cars, the DVDs went in, and they watched the game, and they watched the movie Slapshot, and to get them pumped up for the game. So that's a great popularity of what happened with us is the boom of hockey world.
And I think too that you know, it's not the fact that it took place in the 70s and the styles the way they were and the music in that movie is wonderful, by the way.
Absolutely, yeah.
That George made. But I think also the styles, and that it's not looking back and making a movie about that time. It's really capturing that moment in our history in the mid 70s and what the styles were. As amazing as those styles were with the platform shoes, I kept my shoes and that brown suit I wore in the restaurant. I loved that. I wore it places and with the cool platform shoes that I had. But it was, you know, I think that's an element of the movie too that draws people in.
Yeah, and ladies were fantastic. You know, they were too much. We never saw ladies since we made the movie, the movie was released. But they were great. The hockey player's wife were fantastic. They were feminists before their time. They you know, that was something very important. I think so.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Yvonne, and I do have one last question, but I want to follow up on that because I thought the characters in the movie, some of them were misogynistic, but I did not think the movie was misogynistic. I thought the female parts were written three-dimensional and in some ways ahead of their time. And I think people who don't look for that missed out.
Yes, they missed it. Absolutely. That's right. Nancy Dowd was a lady, and she was herself in front of her time.
Yeah.
And she wrote about it. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the last question then. It is very revealing, I think, that you guys all talk about in a very hockey team kind of way, how you've bonded, how you're teammates for life, the kind of things that actual hockey players, when they're retired, they say that people on a movie typically don't say. So I want to ask, how much of it was the party atmosphere and the pranks? So if to close this out, if you guys will talk to me about the flaming shoelaces and the cuts to sticks that made them break in half and the baby powder in hair dryers and all of that, and how that kind of created a bonding.
Well, Glenn, what goes on in the hockey room stays in the hockey room.
All I can say is at the end of that movie, I had some definite post-traumatic stress syndrome. Really, you didn't want to close your eyes or fall asleep or anything. I mean, and the main perpetrators of it all were Steve and Jeff and Dave. I mean, really. I mean, we had a wardrobe guy, Rick Sharp. Remember Rick?
Rick, yeah.
Was he? Well, no, he wasn't wardrobe. He was makeup.
He was makeup.
I mean, the things they did to him, it was just brutal. You know, I mean, you grabbed him, and I remember one time you wrapped him completely in tape and threw him into the shower. Remember that? And then they'd run away, right? Or we're out there one time, and Rick is out there, and he falls asleep on the lawn. You guys ran out there, and all the people from that are coming to watch the game because they had, people in town. They were giving away Mr. Coffees and things to get people into the stands to be extras. And he fell asleep outside, and you guys ran out there, and everybody's out there for lunch, and you pulled off all his clothes and you ran away. And you couldn't. I mean, I'd go in there. I'd go to get dressed at the end of the day, and you put on your clothes, and there's shaving cream in your shoes, or there's this stuff. They had Dr. Brown's Hell's Fire. It was like a Ben Gay, but it was this really thick, like Vaseline, but on steroids kind of stuff. And they put it like in the crotch of your underwear, and you put it. I mean, you guys were relentless.
Welcome to our world, Jerry.
I know, but it was. You walked into this world, and then they allowed us to be a part of that. And as actors, we were going in to be hockey players, but suddenly we were a part of this new world, and they were totally accepting of us. And there were nobody was a jerk. It was kind of a family. I think that really translates to the screen. But I can tell you this: when Steve comes to visit, I don't let him near my underwear drawer.
Smart advice, Yvonne.
Yes.
So you want to tell us whose tush was who on the bus?
What?
Rear end, derriere, ass.
Whose butts were hanging out the window on the bus?
In Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Ligonier, I'm sorry.
Ligonier.
I don't remember. I had to stop drinking for 35 years, so I forgot a few things. Sorry, I don't remember the window.
I have stopped drinking. It'll be 253 days. I have not touched the drop.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I've been baptized 3 weeks ago, so I got a great life going. I'm serious.
You look great.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thank you. I feel good.
So, Steve, you're not going to tell us about Paul Newman's sauna?
What sauna? What are you talking about, sauna? I didn't know nothing about a sauna. Come on.
That was actually. You remember that story, Steve? That was actually Alan Nichols and I.
See, I knew it.
It was Alan Nichols because Paul put he had a sauna. He liked drinking his beer, but he was totally professional. But he liked drinking his beer at night. But he'd get up every morning and he had a sauna put in down by the pool at the hotel where we were staying at the Sheraton, and because he'd go down there and kind of sweat it out in the morning before he went in. And Alan and I had the great idea one night to go down there and fill it with popcorn. We got all this popcorn and filled this sauna with popcorn, not thinking that in the morning the timer would turn on and the thing would heat up. Paul was a major practical joker too. He was always doing stuff, and that it was just. That's the nature of it, I think that's what that's why he loved the movie. He says it's one of his favorite movies. And
he says Reg Dunlop is one of his favorite characters, and Slapshot is one of his favorite movies.
Yeah.
So give us a Paul Newman prank.
Well, to say why it was his favorite movie, it's because Steve and Dave and Jeff and those guys, Frank. I mean, there was no, usually on a movie set, there's a hierarchy, and if you want something, you'd speak to the second assistant director, maybe the assistant director. The director is God, and you don't do anything. These guys, at night, 1 a.m, they've been out at the bar or whatever, they come back 1 a.m, they call up George's room and go, "Hey George, what time you want us there tomorrow?" There were no stars, and George loved that, and Paul loved that, because nobody tiptoed around them. They were just guys, when it came down to it. That was very special, I think.
Glenn, after a week of shooting, I was wondering about the character I was playing and everything, and I was a little drunk. It was around midnight. I phoned George Oriel at his room, and he said, "Who's talking?" I said, "It's Yvonne." "What do you want to talk about?" "It's midnight. I have to be up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. See you at breakfast." The morning after, I walked into the breakfast room. He stood up, walked to me, and he said, "What do you want to talk about?" "I'll call you tonight." And that was it. We became close friends from that moment. That was
guys, if no one stops me, I'd go on all night, but you have been so generous with your time, almost 2 hours now. So I want to just bring on our executive producers, Paul Patsku and Laura Evans, to say hello before we all say goodbye. But hang on 1 second, Yvonne, because Paul and Laura,
hey, Paul, hey, Laura.
Good. Yeah, thanks, guys. This was fantastic, and I'm just amazed at the bond you guys have after all these years. It's similar to the Team Canada 72. They have that bond, and they were only together for a short time as well. So that's really impressive. And Jerry, I threw out my platform shoes because when I fell off them and sprained my ankle, I had nothing more to do with them. They have a bond.
That's fun. Yeah.
Well, special thanks to Jonathan Jackson, who was helping Glenn and Paul organize this together. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Much appreciated.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah, he'll be on the after party later, right after this.
Okay. And if you liked our program today, I do apologize that YouTube is not happy with us. But if you want to click the like button down below, or if you want to click the subscribe button with the little bell, it'll notify you every time we go live.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys. This has been
folks.
unforgettable, and we appreciate it more than we can ever tell you. So thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good seeing you, boys.
All right, guys.
Good
Take
night.
care.